Hello and welcome to Teenagers Untangled, the audio hug for parents going through the teenage years. I'm Rachel Richards, journalist, parenting coach, mother of 2 teenagers and 2 bonus daughters.
Hi there, I'm Susie Asley, mindfulness coach, mindful therapist, musician and mother of 3 teenagers. 2 of them are twins.
So, Susie, we've talked before about sibling positions and the role we play in the family as a result.
Yeah, we have.
That was episode 8. So if you really want to kind of delve into it in breadth rather than depth, then go to that one.
That feels like a really long time ago.
Like 7 years ago?
Feels like it.
Now, you're a second daughter.
Yes.
I'm a second daughter, which we discovered in that episode, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
So we don't really qualify for this.
No.
But I still think it's worth us understanding the first child role, because maybe it's going to help us parent our own kids better.
Definitely see it in my family.
And understand our sisters better, right? So it's good for all of us. Before we go on, let's have a quick look at our reviews, because we've got some lovely reviews. Do you want to give
first?
me one? Yes.
So I have one lovely one. I love your podcast. Hi, ladies. I've been listening to you for a year now here in the Philippines.
Whoa.
Wow.
Hi.
That's a really long way away.
That's a long way.
Amazing. I love your podcast and have listened to all your episodes. I have 2 teens and I've been learning a lot from you. Love lots, from Weng Ang. Thank you so much, on Spotify.
Thank you, Wayne. That's brilliant. And I had one that came through on Facebook, Sarah Brown. It was about the blog on fearless parenting. So it's not actually the audio. I have a blog on my website. And she said, I so needed this today. Oh my goodness. I was sitting in a dark, empty lobby of a hotel in Florida, emotionally spinning as I wait for my son to come down and we head out for her race. You are amazing. This isn't the first time your words have saved me. Please never stop sharing your incredible talent, wisdom and honesty. Wow. Thank you. And this was the blog on fearless parenting.
Yes.
Because I'd been ski touring and I wanted to talk about what it is to be able to say, yeah, it is really hard, but we can do this. Right?
Amazing.
So, nuggets, do you have a nugget?
I do. So I have a nugget. It's just a funny little episode that happened with my daughter that I really loved. And it kind of made me feel like, lots of the things that I like to feel are going on in the home are actually going on. So I like to think that our home is a safe space and, you can be whatever feeling you need to be, and that is completely cool. And so we had fallen out. I can't even remember what we fell out about. It was something silly probably, but we had fallen out and totally disagreed. And then later that evening, she came down into the kitchen and didn't really speak. I could tell she was a bit annoyed. I said, "Oh, are you okay? You still annoyed at me?" And she went, "Yes, I'm allowed to be." And I went, "Yeah, absolutely, 100%. You are allowed to be." I said, "Do you want to talk about it?" "No." Okay, fair enough. She was rummaging in the snack cupboard and she got a snack out and she went, "I'm going to go and game with my friends." And I went, "Okay, fine. Enjoy. Have a nice time. Bye. Love you." And she went, "Bye. Love you." And off she went. So it's like, oh, wow, we can actually do this. We can actually be really, annoyed with each other and fall out.
Still say you love each other.
Of course, I can be as annoyed as I like and I still love you, like, duh. I was like, yes.
That is just so sweet.
Yeah,
I
really
love
sweet.
that. We've all been, well, we may not all have been there, but I definitely have been there. And actually, mine's about Mothering Sunday, which we celebrated in the UK this past Sunday. You might be listening to this at a completely different time of year, and it happens at different times in different places.
Yes, it does.
But I saw something on Twitter by a woman called Joanne Davis who said, "Is it silly, selfish of me to be a bit upset that nobody organised for my son to write out a Mother's Day card for me? I never expected my ex to sort one out, but I did think maybe my family or my boyfriend might." And I just wanted to sort of stop and pause for a second over this, because this is something I've seen so much over the years, and it can cause great upset. And what I'd want to say is, if you would like something, if you have an expectation about something like Mother's Day, there's an element of teaching gratitude to our children. That's kind of our job as parents, is to kind of let them know that this is what gratitude feels like. And modelling it obviously is the best way to do it, but it's not always easy you need to be explicit. So from when my kids were really young, I used to say to my husband, right, so it's Mothering Sunday on Sunday, so I would like a magazine in bed and I want them to bring me a coffee and tell me how much they love me. And,
Amazing. That's so clear.
Yes. Yeah. Or, the next, and actually it slowly grew where it became a thing. So they realized that Mothering Sunday is like this. And my favorite one was one year where they brought me all this kind of jewelry they'd bought on Chinese Amazon that would turn sort of brown as soon as I put it on, saying, "Mummy, we love you." And they gave me my favourite thing in bed, which was herbal tea and a salad for breakfast. And they gave my husband a cappuccino, and I just looked across and went, "Wait, I want the cappuccino." But it was really, really sweet. Yeah. So just my point is, if you want something, it's really important. They're not mind readers. No. If you say, "I would really like this to happen," go out and buy me a book or a card or something, and then they don't do it, well, there's your answer. Okay, maybe they don't care. But if you're not really clear about what you want and what your expectations are, don't feel terrible that they don't love you or they don't care, because maybe they just didn't realise.
No, I think you're absolutely 100% right. And it sounds like she's talking about her ex, and I've been on my own with my kids for, since they were tiny. So, there's nobody doing it for you. Yes. So it's really important that you're clear. And I always used to do the same as you, maybe slightly, I would say it's in advance, just so you know, it's Mothering Sunday next Sunday, because I always thought they would be really upset if they didn't realise. Yes. And actually, my eldest is at uni now, and I had a conversation with the other two who are still home, and I said, "Do you think we should, remind him? Because not because I need anything from him, I really don't, but I think he'll be really gutted if he realises after the event." And we discussed it, and my daughter went, "Yeah, I'll just text him and remind him," and he was like, "Yeah, I know, but thanks for the reminder," kind of thing. Yes. So it still applies.
Yes, brilliant. And we really need to just don't take it personally. No. But be very clear. Be explicit in your communication with other people in your family and the people you love, because we owe each other this honesty. Yeah.
And it's a gift to them as well, because they enjoy
exactly,
it.
Exactly.
No, I love that.
Right. So coming back to the oldest child. Right. I say oldest child. We are going to focus mostly on oldest daughters, and there's a reason for that. But the oldest child, I want to actually talk about the oldest child first, because I think that there are a lot of boys who get it's a kind of preferential role in a way when you're the oldest boy, because you are the man of the house. You feel good about yourself. It's a kind of patriarchal position that you take up.
Yeah, traditionally, I guess it can be, yeah.
And I would say my husband's the older son, and he really benefited from it. The problem is that there are a lot of boys who have this role, but then when they become older and their identity is entirely tied up with being the person who's in charge, who never delegates, who, always is looked to be that person, it can be crushing when something goes wrong. Yeah. And they commit suicide. And I think we really need to be mindful of even with our sons, that they need to have outlets and they need to be able to hand down to others. And if they're not handing down, then it's worth, my husband's awful at delegating, and I've fought with him my whole marriage about saying, by the way, I can do this as well. I can do this. Can you hand this to me? And he's slowly got much better at it.
Yeah, maybe it's our expectations. We need to be explicit about what they are. And I think it's a balance between, isn't it? Because there is a natural sibling position, which we talk about in that other episode, that they... that actually is just something that happens. So the oldest does have a different role than the youngest, and the ones in between. It's just how it works. But if we have that positioning without awareness, then that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the positioning itself. No. It's when we have it without awareness. And I think it's really important. So boys, I totally agree with that. And also in my situation, which we talk about in the other episode as well, boys who are the eldest when there's no dad around, that can feel really different. And I've seen it many times where they're, you're now the man of the house. You've got to really step up. And depending on how it's done, there's never like a rule book that we have to follow, but I've seen it that it's too much pressure, and they don't know how to do that. So taking that away. And I remember when mine were little, so not teenagers but little, and my eldest my younger boy is a little bit kind of, he was the one who was always running off. We never knew where he was. and it would stress my eldest out, and he'd sort of grab his coat if we were out, and I would, explicitly say to him, it's not your job. I'm the parent. I'm in charge here. You're the child.
Oh, I love that.
And I think we can still continue that vibe as they're older, but then allow them to step up as well, because he's doing that now in a different way, which is really beautiful.
So you're giving them the chance to practice skills of being in charge and those things, but without feeling they have to.
Yes, exactly.
And being explicit about that.
Sibling role with awareness, and then we can choose how we deal with it as it comes up, which it will.
And thinking that there are other kids in the family could also benefit from the opportunity to step up. So it's, it's a benefit for everybody.
Yeah, because the oldest, sometimes that becomes a problem within the sibling dynamic, doesn't it? I'm in charge. I get the biggest meatball. I get the biggest chocolate bar. I get to call the shots. I get the car, whatever it is. No.
So, and one of the reasons I wanted to actually talk about this was because I shared an article on Instagram about something called elder daughter syndrome. Oh, God, everything's a syndrome, isn't it?
A syndrome, yeah. We have to be,
It's not, just so we're clear, it's not actually a medical condition. Can we just stop there? But anyway,
dramatic medicalisation.
Anyway, yes. One of our listeners got in touch to tell me that this had hit hard. She explained that they have an elder daughter who was pretty much a golden child, absolutely, perfect, and a younger son. And the problem was that the older daughter has suddenly started to rebel and show resentment for the role that she felt she'd had to play as a result of being female and the oldest. Mm-hmm. And these are amazing parents. So it's so easy for this to happen.
Yes.
And so it's really important you don't blame yourself, or this is just, it happens. So let's talk about older daughters and why this is an issue. So as the firstborn daughter, these children are often expected to set an example for their younger siblings, taking on more responsibility and acting as role models. Sounds like boys too, but there's a difference, because in a patriarchal society, women typically are assigned implicit roles of undertaking disproportionate domestic and emotional labour in the family system. So there's a nuanced difference there. Yeah. And many women are conditioned to be self-sacrificing martyrs, prioritise centering of the men in the family, and the eldest daughter often takes on that role. So I've been reading an amazingly beautifully written book called The Thorn. It's old. There was a TV series, wasn't there, in the
years
80s?
Ago. My granny used to watch it.
It's beautifully written. But in it is a girl called Meggie, who's a little girl, and she's the only female child. And the family, particularly the mother, are delighted because now they have someone who can share the female roles.
Yes. Which was the norm then, wasn't it?
Yes, and it's all of the housework, including she ends up taking over mothering the three youngest children, like the new babies. She now becomes the person who looks after them. So this is an example of how, when you're living in an economy with very scarce resources, or the women are expected to do all of these roles on their own, they will look to other people to help. And if it's a patriarchal society, they'll look to the girl. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about. Yeah. So in fact, there's on TikTok, I'm not on TikTok. Are you on TikTok?
No, I'm not allowed to be on TikTok.
Oh, that's funny. No, I just don't want to be. But
no, I don't want to either.
There's a hashtag, eldest daughter syndrome. Guess how many views this hashtag has?
I don't know.
24.7 million views.
That is what?
It's insane. It's insane. So people are raising awareness about the syndrome. Yeah, which is great.
Oh, why have they called it a syndrome? That is really triggering.
Exactly. And Instagram has several accounts that talk about this too. And I just want to share some of the quips, just to give you an insight into how these people feel. The oldest daughter will be like, I'm choosing not to have kids due to the fact I've raised my entire family already.
Okay,
that's one example. Another one and these are ones that have got lots and lots of likes, thousands. Here's another one. Someone says, you're so easy to talk to. And the response is, thanks, I've been my mother's therapist since I was old enough to speak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Another one, I'll give you two more. Tell me you're the oldest daughter in a South Asian family without telling me you're the oldest daughter in a South Asian family. An unpaid maid, babysitter, therapist, third person, cook, emotional wreck, overly matured for her actual age.
Ouch.
And another one, which made me laugh, was she boasted, I'm going to put oldest daughter in a brown household on my resume.
Wow. Okay.
Because you could do everything, right?
Yeah.
So let's break down the psychology behind it and how this happens. So they find themselves doing more domestic labour, given jobs that aren't age appropriate, pulled into arguments between caregivers, struggling to let loose and play, doing the emotional caretaking. These are possible scenarios. We're not saying this always happens. We're just saying these are the things they're complaining about. So let's take them. It can feel pressure to maintain that eldest role. You know, you kind of identify as the oldest, and then you don't want your pecking order removed.
No, because there are probably valuable things that go with it. Just out of interest, in those statistics, where are they mainly from? Does it say, or is it just a general?
Which statistics?
Just the 27 million. Sorry, wrong.
I just did a search on. I mean, it's probably even more now. I did a search on which were the TikTok hashtags that were most popular on this.
Yeah,
and
it's really interesting because I'm thinking it's also a cultural thing, isn't it? And a really interesting topic.
It is an interesting topic, and you know, given that I'm not an older daughter, it's very interesting for me. I'm peering over the fence, but I'm learning. So.
You have an older daughter.
I have an older daughter. And this is the thing. I'm looking at her going, So, number one, heightened sense of responsibility. And this is one of the most prominent oldest child traits. This early responsibility can shape their adult behaviour because they take on more of a parenting role next to their parents, unless the parents push them back a little bit, because they will often try to parent the younger siblings, and the younger siblings get annoyed, like, you're not my parent.
Yeah, it's a status thing as well, isn't it? They get more things as they're growing up. The older one gets to do more, and that becomes a pattern.
Yeah, but we also get to experiment on them and then go, oh, that didn't work. I'll try different.
Oh, yeah. No, I wouldn't want to be the eldest, but I can see it. I have an older sister and she definitely takes more responsibility.
Yes. Conservative and rule-following behaviour. Yeah. Tick. Firstborns tend to be more conservative and inclined to follow rules. I'm quite conservative. I like rules. I love rules, in fact. But I think maybe that's because I didn't have enough.
Yeah.
And I think my oldest daughter definitely, for sure, more conservative, more loves to know what the rules are. And they tend to, because they were the only child for a while, they tend to be more likely to adopt the parents' values and attitudes. And they can be more cautious to life and have greater aversion to risk taking.
Yeah, my sister is definitely more rule abiding than I am, but I'm not very rule abiding. So
yeah. Well, I think again, the rule thing, I think the reason I like rules is because I felt very unsafe not having rules. And I think it's clinging onto something like, where are the rules? I want to know the rules.
And it's important within this topic, as in any topic, that there are massive variables in it.
Of course.
It's just a pattern, isn't it?
Of course. So oldest daughters are second only to only children in the level of academic pressure that they can be made to endure.
Okay.
But they also get a lot of attention, which also really helps them. But what we have to think about is that they're going to be getting attention that the other ones might miss out on.
Okay.
So parentification is the word that the psychologists use. And that's where if you've got absent or overwhelmed parents, that older daughter often ends up trying to take that role. But I think boys can do that too.
Yeah, it just means you're sort of, they're confident or they're doing too much. And that can happen for boys too.
And I think the way that girls get more pressure in this direction is if there is conflict between the parents where it's an emotional thing they want to vent, and they'll talk to the daughter about it because they kind of see that as the girl's role.
Yeah, a lot of mothers do that, I think, and you have to be really, it's really lovely to have a close relationship, isn't it? But you have to, if there are no boundaries in it and they feel like you're there, the quote you had of the therapist, that's not good.
No, and they can feel pushed to grow up prematurely. So because they've been more mature and they've been more connected to their parents, they often can look around at kids their own age and they don't really feel they can connect so easily because they're more mature.
Yeah.
Lack of emotional expression, difficulty expressing vulnerability because they think it shows weakness if they are vulnerable because they're the person who actually looks after the little ones that are getting things wrong. That's not their role because who's going to comfort them if they feel that position?
Yeah.
They can have identity formation challenges. I've seen this in adults where they didn't have an opportunity, and I don't know necessarily that it was an older daughter, but they didn't necessarily have the opportunity to rebel when they were younger, and they became very rebellious in the middle of their life.
Okay.
And that can also cause problems because they're trying to figure out who they are at a time when it's not as easy to do. Another thing that they've brought up is identity formation challenges. So finding their own path, asserting their individuality can be a struggle. I've seen people have a midlife crisis. because, and when I say midlife crisis, I mean like in their 30s, because they never really got the chance to rebel, and they ended up with that role. But I don't think necessarily that's older.
No, I'm kind of struggling with this whole topic, if I'm going to be completely honest, because I see it.
Yes.
I guess it's sibling roles, we know 100% they play a role in our lives. But I don't know, all of these things, they could be explained by other stuff, couldn't they? I mean, it just depends on how the individual parents parent the individual kids.
Yes.
And yes, there are patterns, and yes, there are tendencies, but maybe I'm missing the point. I don't quite see what the syndrome and the big drama bit is.
I know. Well, yes. And I maybe that's because we don't live in such a strong patriarchal society, so we don't feel the weight of expectation that some of these women will be feeling.
Absolutely possible.
And where they feel utterly confined by their roles. So, if you look at, once again, you look at that story that I outlined in Italy of the woman who had young, actually older men living at home with her who refused to move out and expected her to do everything for her. And, when I was mentioning that story in front of a consultant, and he was Greek, and he went, "Oh yeah, it's the same it's the same in my culture. If the boys are expected to hang around the house and the women look after them." And
that's kind of why I asked where the statistics were from, like globally, because I mean, it's a pattern and a tendency that we definitely need to be aware of here. And I'm sure there's lots of people who would sign up to the syndrome part here as well. But I'm not sure that I see it quite as dramatic.
Me too. And
I'm sure it happens in other places.
Well, I think becoming aware of it can be useful if you want to create boundaries, and you want to say, actually, I don't, you're putting me in this position, and I don't want to be in that position. I think setting it up as a syndrome and getting people to inspect their emotions over this too much is not very helpful, is it?
No, maybe it's just to get awareness around it.
Yes.
Which is great, always great. I'm confused as to what we're supposed to be aware of now. Sorry.
Should we finish now?
I just ruined this one.
No, not at all. But the point is to unpack it and say, well, there's this whole syndrome that everybody's talking about on TikTok, or not everybody, but is it? But really...
I can absolutely see in other cultures it would be very different. Yes. So it's very difficult to maybe talk about from our culture, but I have empathy for and understanding and awareness for in other places. It maybe looks really different. And
I'm a UN delegate for the UK, and I've been watching. Thank you for the women's. It's the women's something or other. I can't remember now. But actually, I was watching the one yesterday, which was about what adolescent girls want, and it's really marked that. Like a woman from Mali was talking, and they just want their kids in education as long as possible. They want to, and so we're all feeling these emotions and things, but it's really a big challenge for people in other cultures, and for them to be able to explain why something doesn't feel good, and how they can feel completely confined by a role that's being pushed on them where they can't achieve their potential. So I can see that actually, really, what we're doing is we're talking about something that's not really a big problem. I would say here, but it is for sure in a lot of cultures that we are getting downloaded in 155 countries, so there will be people in those countries who will really identify with this.
And that hashtag is definitely obviously resonating, and it would be very interesting to see where is it resonating most.
Yes, that would be interesting. Tell us if you are from a country where you see this a lot. Tell us, we'd love to know. So if you're a parent, what can you do? Delegate responsibilities to other people in the family. Don't just assume that because it's this job, it should be the oldest, or because I've seen it where you've got kids who are growing up and they're used to handing the job to number one. And it becomes just a habit where actually number 2, 3, 4, whatever, could easily do that job. And we just have to stop ourselves sometimes and say, actually, we as a team, we need to do this, get this done. How about you do it? And accepting they're going to do it badly to start with, because it is not the job that they've always done, but maybe they would benefit from doing that job.
And maybe we also have to take a step back and look at how we see our own kids, because I'm just sitting here thinking, I know for sure that I have treated my kids differently, even though in the moment I will swear the other way. But I think I see them differently, like just because they are different. They were born at different times, and one is older, one is younger, and then obviously it's twins. And maybe we need to step back and how am I actually seeing my children and what am I contributing here? And it's only when we have that awareness that we can actually realize what we're doing at all.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Because I know for sure I've expected more of my eldest. Mine have travelled abroad since they were really little to visit their dad in another country. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, the younger are now doing it on their own. And it felt like, oh my gosh, they're much younger. And then I looked back at the dates and realised that actually my eldest had done it a year younger than them. And it was really thought-provoking.
Yes.
You see them differently. And that's a really important part of the puzzle, I think.
And I think it's also in terms of just bringing them on and teaching them skills. If we're not conscious of it, what we do is we risk the younger ones not getting to practice things that they need in order to be a grown-up, a fully fledged adult. So it's about sharing it out a bit, as well as taking some of the pressure off the person who's the oldest in the family.
But we have to have awareness that we're doing it in the first place to do it.
And to be able to say to them, it's not that I don't think you can do it, because I know you can do it. I'm just going to give it to somebody else for change. And I think allowing them, actually being conscious with them and saying, you need your own hobbies and activities. So if they're doing an awful lot around the house, that can be really helpful. But have a step back and think, are they doing everything and the other kids are getting the activities and the hobbies? Because this, and it can work both ways, because you look at some kids who the younger one has to follow the older one around doing all their sports and they just sit there in the background.
Yeah. By the time you've got the third one, you can't take them to a third activity. It's too much. So they have to either do football or nothing.
There's the garden. So it's in a way, it's about making sure that everybody's getting a chance to find something, a way of self-expressing, whether it's art or music or anything that they, am I allowing them to develop their own persona rather than expecting them to be mummy number 2?
Yes, or doing what the others have done because it's easier for us.
And if I feel that I'm leaning on them a lot because I really need it, because I'm my husband's just died, or my family have just, have been abusing me, whatever it is that's really, really difficult. It's about saying, okay, I need my own support networks. I need something outside the family that's going to be helping me rather than my child.
Yeah.
That's not their job.
And having a conversation with them, and I'm sure they're in some places where the need is really acute, and maybe they don't have assistance and they don't have family around them, and maybe lots of children, and it's a really natural thing to ask the older daughter to step up and do some of the chores or the childcare or whatever, to maybe have a conversation with the particular girl and explain what's going on, and how can they also get some balance within it. Where can they slack off a bit and give them a bit of a break so that they're aware of it too?
Yes, absolutely. And finally, practicing mindfulness and self-reflection.
Well, that's always a good
Diaries.
idea.
My oldest daughter, she writes a diary every day, and she said it's been so helpful because it helps her to unpick when she's got a bit tangled up in what she's thinking about something. She's writing things down, and she can look back and go, oh, I was thinking that then. Well, actually, it's the same now, or it's different.
It's amazing. And journaling diary.
Journaling can be really helpful.
Yeah. Brilliant. Mindfulness, I will always advocate for that. I think it's a great idea.
Or voice notes, things where you just, keeping some kind of an outlet of some sort, or just a chance to just stop. And
because there are some really beautiful skills you get from being the oldest.
Absolutely.
100%. I sometimes look at my sister and go, oh, like she seems way more competent than I am. And I always revert into being little sister incompetent because it just is. That's how it goes.
Easier.
I go, oh, wow, I want to be her.
And I love that, because actually I wouldn't want to be the oldest. But that's because I'm not the oldest. So I don't know really what it feels like. It doesn't look that appealing. And I think it has helped me think about my sister more. And I think I was resentful that I was left to grow up without really feeling part of something that was because my sister's much older than me, so they sort of were a club, and I was this little runt that had come along and kind of they're like looking at me going, oh my God, we're going through this again, we did this so long.
How many years between you?
Nearly 5 years.
Okay, that's a lot when you're little.
And and I think it can be kind of, oh gosh, what's she doing? Oh, teenagers, for God's sake. So I can understand, I totally understand that. But actually, it allowed me to step outside the family dynamic, because I was away from that, whereas she was stuck in it. So you can say that it gives you these amazing skills of leadership, a sense of power, that you can do things and you can look at others and go, well, you can't really do it. You can see that you can do things other people can't. So it can give you a real sense of, I own this, but it can also get you trapped in something you can't step away from.
Yeah, it depends on the particular family, doesn't it?
It all depends.
But good to have an awareness.
Yes. So it's definitely helped me to understand my family better. Right. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Share this episode with one person who might benefit. And we would love a review, wouldn't we?
Yes, please.
We love these reviews.
Great.
And if you have any thoughts or ideas on this, if you've really been affected by the syndrome.
Yeah, I'd really love to hear. It's really interesting.
Can we please have people from countries where, even in the Philippines? Thank you. You're listening.
Yeah. I mean, it's clearly resonating massively. It would be really interesting to get feedback on this topic.
Yes, thank you. So you can email us at teenagersuntangled@gmail.com, message us on social media. We're on everything except TikTok. And
because I'm not allowed on it.
Oh, I don't need another thing. The website you can sign up to the newsletter is www.teenagersuntangled.com. My blog's on there too. Susie is doing some amazing work in lots of spaces like businesses and things, but there's also something called The Nest. Susie.
Yes.
You came from there today.
We had a client there who is still there right now, actually. So it's a retreat place locally, a really, really beautiful space run by a friend who had an Airbnb sort of shepherd's hut, and women can come there sort of solo retreats, and it's a bespoke retreat. It's in the middle of the woods, and I come and do mindful therapy. We go for walks in the wood. There's forest bathing, massage. Moya makes amazing food. It's just it's a nest. It's a retreat.
It's absolutely beautiful
space, and you can come and heal, take time, whatever you need to do. Highly recommend. Yeah, the lady staying there at the moment is lovely. She's grieving, and so it's a really beautiful space for her to be at. Yeah.
How amazing to be able to offer that.
It's really beautiful, and we have a place in Cornwall as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can find them on Instagram. You can find Susie as well. How do they find you?
If you go to my website, you'll find all my links there, which is www.amindful-life.co.uk.
Yeah, I mean, that's right by these ancient woodlands, which are incredible.
Amazing. So, and very soon there will be full of bluebells.
I know. I'm arranging a lunch for my ladies, my friends, to come over and walk through the bluebells.
It's magical, though. Magical.
Right, that's it. Big hug to everyone.
Yeah, and bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye for now.